Show who you are. Good riddance. Is your kid in bid the forbidden? As it was written, you overbidding. With the heathens, karma is a bitch, so how you living? Pray for my enemies, unforgiving. Cast the pearls on hog moms and chitlin'. If it's too hot, get your ass out the kitchen. Finger licking good, good looking. Stewing in the stew, I'm cooking. You psyched out, paranoid and shookin'. Shook the table, babes, I'm booking. Get prepared for this ass whooping. Listen to the words being spoken. You were talking, I'm awake and woken. While I'm spitting this, got your spit, got choking. Era up, a glimpse in my world, eyes shut open. Parallel in my mind, I'm chosen. Reverse the time, heart frozen. Antarctica, cold as ice. Casting lots, rolling dice. Mean as nails, I'm nothing nice. They persecuted me like they rejected Christ. Alright. Happy Friday, everybody. It's time to party. Thank God it's Friday. I want to introduce Mrs. Fields. She's coming to us, give her spiel on the psychosocial analysis of child development. How you doing this evening, Miss Fields?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you and everyone else?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you came to be?
Absolutely. I'm 46 years old. I have three magnificent children, ages 11, 10, and 3. I've been married to my husband for 14 years. He is a high school teacher, and prior to COVID and my last pregnancy, I was a youth mentor. I also studied behavioral science and child psychology for those reasons, as far as being a mentor. And then, of course, keeping in mind that one day I would have my own children, so I wanted to be a little prepared for parenthood.
Did you take any type of classes for this?
I did. I took college courses. I did not get my degree in it. I decided to take another avenue, but I still continue to research and study because it's something that I'm passionate about. Is children and their development and how we're raising them so that they can become successful and thrive in this world and create a better future than what we have been seeing recently.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to close my window, but let me just mute you real quick so I can ask.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about your children. Well, yeah, how old are your children? Um, and the genders and whatnot.
Okay, so I have William the Third, who is 11 years old. He's my charming, laid-back son. AB Honor Roll, Honor Society. He's in all honors classes. He makes mommy really, really proud, and dad, of course. Um, my second born is 10 years old. We had them back to back, and he's the mid kid, so he's he's a little sarcastic like me, but overall his behavior, like he's also AB honor roll, hardworking, um, uh, just charming as well. And then I have a 3-year-old daughter who was a surprise baby. I had her at age 43. And at 3 years old, she's an old soul. I think she's been here before. And she's developing beautifully. Not I'm not saying physically, but in her mind and her characteristics and how she behaves herself. Um, my children are magnificent. I can't even take all the credit because they're just magnificent. It's a dual process between my husband and myself. Again, me being a youth mentor, And having studied what I studied, and then my husband being a high school teacher, he's also used to dealing with children of all ages. Um, that's pretty much the breakdown of my kids. I know a lot of people brag about their kids because they're their kids. I'm not even bragging about them because they're my kids. I'm bragging about them because they are truly magnificent.
Um, with when you were at the youth center, what ages were you dealing with?
I would say like 9 to 15.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah,
And
9 to 15.
how long were you at the youth center?
7 years.
Okay. Did you ever have to deal with problematic children?
Oh yes, yes. Unfortunately, so. But I don't believe that children are problematic. I believe that children have problems, not so much that they're problematic.
Is do you so like have you encountered I mean, do you think it's because of the parents or you know?
I will say, in all fairness, a lot of times it is because of the parents, but it's not necessarily meant to be in a negative manner. Sometimes it's because of the parents because in society everything is expensive. We have to work. So sometimes you just have this child who is left to their own devices. They don't have, the parents at home. So they're pretty much end up raising themselves. Okay. So that's the ones where I say I can definitely understand um how that impacts them. And then yes, you have those who are just not good parents at all. Um, they're more concerned about themselves and their lives versus their children's lives. So I've seen a lot of both sides.
Mhm. Um, it's okay because I know as a single mother, raising my children, and having to go to work. Of course, they were like school when they were school age, it was a little bit more easier. But when they were younger than school age, I wasn't really a single parent then though. But I'm just saying, like, do you think this is the effect and the dynamic of being a single parent?
Not necessarily, because again, you can have a two-parent home. Okay, so I'll give an example. I forgot to mention that I'm also a stay-at-home mother now.
Mm,
The example that I have to share is when I and my husband were working, the life for my children was very chaotic and
mm,
it was exhausting because, we're both at work all day. And yes, they may be at school majority of the day, but even then your parents get off of work. So then your parents have to come home. They got to cook dinner. They got to clean. Maybe they have some work to do from leaving work. And it cuts down the time for the children. So even in a two-parent household, those things can happen. I
mm,
do see, however, how it could be more in a single parent household because there's no tag team in that. There's no, okay, well, this parent is off on a Friday, so that person will handle those things, and then the other spouse is the spouse is off on Thursday, so they would handle those things. It's a constant where the children are pretty much left by themselves. So no, I don't believe it is completely just a single parent household problem.
mm. Okay. Um, so can you just do you think that having a parent at home is important when they're at a young age?
I absolutely do. And this is a discussion that my husband and I had before we even had children. Especially in their younger years. Um, I can see the differences between my children and other children. Now, please don't take this the wrong way. I'm not saying my children are better than other people's children. I'm just saying I can see the difference of me being home and being able to be there for my children and my family in their younger years, in their developmental state, as opposed to going to daycare, or being raised by even grandma, per se. I mean, grandma might be your second best option, but it's still not the same as having mom at home. And sometimes even dad, because you have some stay at home dads too. I think it's very important in the younger years for a parent to be at home with their child. Yes, I do.
Um, so when you're staying at home, because I know I always preach this thing, with because in traditional years or traditional marriages or the you know uh mothers that stay home, they usually like did some entrepreneurship work. Are you doing any type of entrepreneurship while you're at home?
Not until next year because my daughter right now is 3. Next year she actually qualifies to go to pre-K at the elementary school in our district. So next year I'm going to open my cleaning business. Um, I make money here and there, but it's not something that I can put my entire time and effort into at this time. And I would prefer to be able to do that before I make that kind of commitment.
Okay, let me ask you, how old were your children when you like potty trained them and stuff like that?
My boys were easier. I want to say they were like 1.5
Hmm.
when they were fully potty trained. Like, yes, they still had accidents. My daughter, I'm not gonna lie, I'm having a hard time with. She will go number one on the potty, but she will not go number two on the potty. So I'm still working on that. I don't know if it's a difference between boys and girls. I did read somewhere um, a while back when I was doing the potty training with the boys that there's a natural thing about children wanting to stand when they go number two. It boggled my mind when I read it. It's something about like that it's not even really natural for us to sit to go number two.
Right. It's not. We're supposed to be squatting.
Exactly. So a lot of times, like when she has to go, she'll go, like I said, she'll go pee pee in the potty. But when she wants to do number two, she will literally ask me for a pull up. And then she'll even tell me, she'll be like, go away, mom. And I'm like, okay, so you want to poop in private? Okay, I'll give you that, you know. But then she'll also come and tell me, okay, mommy, I'm done. And then I clean her up. But again, it's something we're still continuously working on where I say, baby, you could probably just use a potty. I'm sure she'll get it in the next couple of months. I'm not one that forces it. Of
Mm.
course, there has to be a certain time limit to it where you're like, okay, enough is enough. But I'm not going to force it because I don't want her to feel uncomfortable doing it because then she's really not going to want to do
Okay. Yeah, the reason why I brought that up because there's this psychosocial analysis by Sigmund Freud where he talks about potty training and like early potty training versus um late potty training. I think it's called anal stage development. Let me just bring up this. I got you on mute too while I'm talking, so it won't be no echo, just in case you might be saying something right now. Let me bring up this chart real quick, just so we can show it. I'm gonna unmute you while I talk about it. Okay. Oh,
it. Uh-oh.
that's my Facebook. Let me close this because I'm getting a call from Facebook. Oh goodness gracious, sorry. So let me just read this chart. I'm gonna mute you real quick while I read it, and then you tell me what you. Okay, so you got Freud's psychosexual stages of development. You have the oral stage, which is the mouth sucking, swallowing, etc. This is usually developed during breastfeeding and stuff like that. Then you have the anal stage, which is the anus withholding or expelling feces. This usually happens during the potty training stage. Then the phallic stage, I don't want to even read what it says right there. The penis or clitoris or masturbation. This is where where the baby first comes out, and I mean not when they first come out, when they're infant and they start identifying their body parts. And then the latent stage, little or no sexual motivation present. And then the genital stage, the penis or vagina and sexual intercourse. I don't want to get too sexual about it because we're talking about children, but these stages are related to like breastfeeding, potty training, and I'm gonna get another chart so I can go into depth with the other stages. What do you think about that?
I think it's having raised these three children, I think it's very accurate. I nursed all three of my children.
Mm,
Um, so that's a thing where, you know, it's it makes sense, I'll say. I'm
mm,
being careful as well because we don't want to sexualize children, but it's something worthy of speaking of.
mm,
Um, as far as like even right now, my 3 year old, she has knowledge of what she has as far as her body parts and how to keep them clean because I teach her that. Um, hell, the other day I had to tell my son to put on some drawers because he just walking around butt naked, and I'm like, boy, you 10, I don't want to see that. Um, so the stages, they make sense as provided we're not sexualizing them, provided we're looking at it as a biology and not a sexualization. So some people would look at that list and be like, "Oh, that looks very sexualized," but
mm,
it's not.
mm, mm. So I just want to say now because let me real quick. It's not sexual, but it tends to have an effect on how a child ends up when they become like adults. So that's why they say it's a psychosexual stage because it's based off the early stages in the development of the child. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And so, the oral stage is the first stage is the oral stage. The libido is focused on the baby's mouth, and the baby gets satisfaction from putting everything in their mouth to satisfy the libido. Uh, you know how babies they always put stuff in their mouth.
Oh yeah, 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 absolutely. Everything they can find.
How long did you how,
Hands, mittens, whatever.
how long did you breastfeed for?
Uh, I think all three of them about 2.5 years each.
Okay, 2.5 years.
Uh huh.
Okay. Um, Let me just say hello. Hey, Jesus, thanks for joining us. He said hello. I'm sorry. It's a little feedback, so I'm trying to do this. Okay. So thanks for joining us, Jesus. Let me go back here and read the other stages. So it says the baby gets satisfaction from putting everything in their mouths to satisfy the libido. Some examples are sucking, biting, and breastfeeding. The next stage is anal stage. Now the libido is focused on the anus. Now the child is aware of what is happening in the outside world, and their ego develops. Potty training is also related to this stage because get uh, by having children getting early potty training, they will develop a personality that hates mess, is punctual and respectful of authority. So when you do early potty training, they say they're very OCD.
Hmm.
What you think?
That's quite interesting. I don't recall that one. Um, I don't know. Yeah. Um, Mine learned, like I said, my boys. It was about a year and a half, and I mean, I personally, just speaking personally for my children, I don't see any kind of side effects, of their development because they didn't train earlier than a year and a half. Again, just like my daughter, her development is just fine. She just really doesn't want to sit down on the potty to go number two. Um, I don't know about that one. I don't know if I can agree with Ford on that one.
What they're saying people that okay, so people that do early because I'm my both all my kids they like well except for my last child because I have three too, but I have a 24-year-old, 21-year-old, and a 15-year-old now. So my two oldest, which was my oldest is a girl and my son is a boy, of course, and they were potty trained like before they were two, but they were like one and a half as well. And then I had my baby girl. She took a long time to potty train. She was probably a little bit over 2 years old. And it's hard to determine by this because we don't really know what is early potty training. But it's saying that people that potty train, they usually don't like mess. They respect authority. You know what I'm saying? They like neat areas and stuff like that. I say OCD, but I don't know.
I don't
Uh,
know, but that can also come from. So I'll give an example. The 3 year old that's not quite potty trained all the way yet.
mm,
When she spills something, she asks me for a towel.
mm,
When she does go number two in her diaper, because I always keep her in panties until she asks me for a diaper. I already know what it means when she asks me for a diaper. That means she has to go number two. So I always do try to convince her, like, well, come on, baby, let's sit on the pot. Let's try it. She says, no, I don't want to. And I said, okay, well, I don't want to clean it up off the floor. I'd rather clean it out your diaper. Fine, here you go. You know, but I don't, she's actually OCD and she's not 100% potty trained, if that makes sense.
mm. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's
Like
see.
the other day, like my husband was we hunt, right? My husband we have a deer corn that we put out at night so that the deer will come and get a routine, whatever, so we can get some deer meat. And daddy spilled some corn on the garage floor. And Monica said, that's my daughter's name, Monica. Monica said to daddy, said, you cleaned your mess up. You made a mess, daddy. So I can't really see the correlation of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's theory, so it's up for debate. You know, it's not like set in stone, but this is what they came up with because it, either stage, you know, because we have several different stages, could cause the child to be more tidy and neat, but it also is about nature and nurture.
Hmm. and
Um,
and that and that's another, and that does tie into where you ask, when you ask as far as, being at home and having a parent at home. So for example, for me, what does she see me do all day? She'll see me do my laundry, she'll see me cook dinner. If something, is messed up, I'll clean it. So she mimics my behavior. Whether she poops on the toilet or not doesn't matter.
mhm,
you know
right.
and it's no different. You got to remember that a lot of these, I call them dinosaurs, Sigmund Freud, Ferber, kind of like the cry it out method with Dr. Ferber.
Hmm.
He got to a point where he recanted his research because he figured out that he wasn't right. So we're those older people that were doing some of those things, they didn't have it right. I'm not saying I'm perfect and that I have all the answers, but I can say that a lot of those people back in the days, they didn't have it right.
Hmm. I'm just reading about this crying out method.
I've never done that in my life. I refuse. I tried it one time and it broke my heart, and then I went and researched it. I had already known about it, but then when I started to research it, and it
Mm,
started to when I started to come across the articles where he had actually retracted
mm,
his initial research and findings, I said, "Yeah, I'll never do that again."
Mm. Well, let me say this. When it comes to that, because I don't really know much about the crying out method, but with my first child, she was, when she was small, she was like, um she was always a happy, for the most part she was a happy baby, but she'll be changed, clean, fed, everything, right? And so at this particular time, every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, she would cry, and she would not stop crying. I would pat her, I would burp her, I would do all kind of stuff to try to figure out what was going on. So I figured that because she was such a happy baby the majority of the day, she just needed that 1 hour to just be vocal. What do you think about that?
Um, again, I've never done. I've just never done that. So if you get the chance and you do actually read about the Ferber method, it's not that it's not an acceptable thing. But there's a certain age limit. Like when that child's an infant, you have to remember that for 9 months you carried that child in your stomach, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that child is used to your movement. They're used to being swayed back and forth, even though you weren't carrying them, but just your walking and your movement is what would rock them to sleep. They heard your heartbeat day in and day out. So when they're very, very small, when they're infants, that's the one that I cringe at. When they're infants, if they cry, they're crying because there's a need, even if it's just a need to be on your chest to hear your heartbeat, because that's what they have been accustomed to for the last 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we're talking about a 3-year-old that's just having a tantrum and doesn't want to take a nap, that's completely different. Even a 2-year-old, I'll say. No, I say it's time for a nap. You can clearly understand me. You know what I'm saying to you. Now lay down and take a nap. And if you want to cry for 5 minutes, hey, you cry for 5 minutes. I'm talking more in the infant stage. It's not it's counterproductive, because then you get to a point where when your child cries, when you ignore them, eventually they'll stop crying for you. They'll stop crying for you. Because their expectation is when they cry, you're going to come to assist them. And if you're a person that every time, not you, I'm not saying you, I'm just saying in general, where every time you're just like, oh, they just need to clear out their lungs. No, something might really be wrong. I mean, it'll be that one time. That's always been my fear. It'll be that one time that I would ignore that cry when something is really wrong with my child. So I have to go and attend to my child. I might not like it. I might be tired, but I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to do it.
Right. I Now with my particular situation, I did everything. I mean everything. Rocked her, laid her on my chest, and she just would not stop crying. But this was my first child too, right? So I was constantly calling 911, going to the hospital and stuff of that nature to see what was going on, but nothing was really wrong with her.
She just wanted you.
Mhm. I had
That's
her.
it.
I never left my kids, so I didn't get it. Um,
But again, but you made a very good point when you said that was your first child, right?
mhm, mhm,
We don't know nothing when we have our first kid. We don't. I didn't know nothing. Don't let Mrs. Fields fool you. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I didn't know nothing. I was like, oh my God, what do you want? Oh. And then I started reading and doing more research. I had already taken my classes, but then as the more I read, it was like little things. It'd be like, okay, well, maybe they're too hot. Maybe check, like, let's say check their pajamas to see if there's you know how when you rip the tags off and sometimes that little plastic thing will still be there.
mhm.
Check for things like that. Like I literally learned a lot of different things again, and then especially like with breastfeeding as well. Okay, well, what did you eat today, Jessica? Did you ate broccoli? He's probably gassy. That's what it is. Okay, let me give him some gas medicine. So
Mhm.
again, it's all trial and error. Nobody's going to be perfect, especially not the first time. Nobody's going to be perfect. This takes years of training.
Mm.
and trial and error, so but a lot of times they just want, and that's one of the things I learned. It's your heartbeat. Like they just want to lay on your chest because for 9 months, all they heard was your heartbeat. A
Mm.
lot of times, that I'm not saying in your situation, but a lot of times that's what they want because
Well,
they don't know no better.
right, but let me tell you that this same child, she's super vocal to this day, and she is so passionate when she talk. So I see, like, like when you look at them as when they were babies, even when I was pregnant with her, I took on like their characteristics while I was pregnant, and now I see, like, okay, you was the same way back then. She's very vocal now. Um, what would you tell women, first time moms, who's deciding on whether or not to breastfeed?
I would say if you can, do it. If you can, it's for me when my decision. Well, my thought process on breastfeeding was quite a few things. One, formula is expensive as hell. Okay, that's for one. Two, you don't know what's in that formula, but you know what's in your body, and your body was made to produce to nurture your child.
Mm,
I will never shame a woman for not doing so. Um, because I don't know their situation. Some women cannot breastfeed. Maybe the child won't latch. Maybe they have to go to work and they're just not able to breastfeed on demand. In that aspect, I would recommend a pump and see if you can pump the breast milk, because it's natural and it is in fact better than this manufactured formula that people give these children. It's actually a known fact. And next time I will be more prepared. I really wasn't with the leak in my roof and everything. I was not prepared as I would normally be.
if you want me to look up anything, I can. It's no problem.
Um, it's where they tell you like a lot of times where breastfeeding, where like for example, look, we'll say allergies. A lot of children who are breastfed do not have allergies versus children who are formula fed because we have antibodies already in our bodies because we've lived this life of producing these antibodies for ourselves because we've been sick, we had the allergies or we've had the flu, we've had whatever it may be. So our bodies produce antibodies, and when you breastfeed, those antibodies go through your breast milk to your child.
Hmm. Hmm.
So again, it's healthier, it's more beneficial. I will never shame a woman for not doing so if they can't. Or look, if they don't want to, I'm not even mad at that. Some people don't want to be committed to breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is a full-time job, especially if you're doing it on demand.
Hmm.
That means if you want to take a bath, but your baby hungry, your bath waits. If you want to go out with your friends, or you want to go out on a date with your husband or whatever it is you want to do,
Hmm.
but baby needs you, you can't do it because you have to be there on demand unless you're pumping. And then a lot of women, their bodies, well, for myself, my body did not um, respond well to a pump. Like I could, I could feed my baby, and I know my baby was full, but if I pump, I might get 1 ounce out of it.
Right. I pumped, but I could pump without a pump. Like when I breastfeed, I was able to squeeze the milk, and I was doing better by squeezing it manually with my hands than pumping it with the breast pump. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
No, I was saying yes, absolutely. Like I said, mine didn't. I know I didn't respond to the pump at all. I would get maybe an ounce, maybe.
My baby girl, my baby girl, she never really latched on very well. It was so excruciating. It was so painful, but I never gave up, and I just kept breastfeeding her anyway.
And that's another thing that you mentioned. Like sometimes it can be painful. I don't want nobody to be in pain. And that's why I say again, if you can do it, please, yes, do. And my thing is more or less that you don't know what these manufacturers are putting in this stuff. That's my biggest thing. You don't know what they all that iron and all you don't know what they put. We don't even know what they put in our food. Nevertheless, baby food. Remember that time there was a formula shortage?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see, I was sitting here like, shoot, I ain't got to worry about that. Here you go. Here's your boo. You know,
Mm-hmm.
again, that's not to shame anybody. If you can't do it, or even if you just don't want to do it, then that's your decision. But if I had to give advice, oh, absolutely, breastfeed. They say breast is best. This how I put it. Breast is best, but so is fat. As long as you feeding your baby, I'm good. We all good. I don't want to
Right.
see no baby go hungry. But if you
Right.
can do the breast, do the breast.
Let me say this too. Even when they start eating solid foods, I learned that because when I put my like again my baby girl on like that beech nut and Gerber foods, she was having allergic reactions to those. So I started pureeing her food on my own, like natural foods. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely, because that's all I ever did. I've never given my children anything out of a jar. I had my little blender. Whether I mix some, I do my fruits. Like maybe I'll do like apples and bananas or strawberries and bananas. I'll do sweet potatoes. They always love sweet potatoes. I did everything myself.
Mm,
I refuse to give my children at that young stage anything out of a jar.
okay, what age were they when you start putting them on solid food? Like not solids, but outside of breast milk.
Um, I'd say 6 months.
Hmm.
Yeah, 6 months. About 6 months sounds about right.
Yeah, that's what I did about 6 months. That's when I started.
Yeah. Anything before that is actually really bad for kids.
Mm-hmm.
There's a thing called open gut where their bodies just aren't ready to digest
Mm-hmm.
those types of foods, depending on the food.
Mm-hmm.
I usually like start with like frozen foods. Like I'll get a frozen banana and especially at that time because they might be teething. So I would use that things of that nature. Um, but yeah, it's not very healthy to try to start your infant on any type of solids prior to 6 months.
Okay. Let me just say that with breastfeeding, I noticed that uh I lost a lot of weight gain that I had gained during pregnancy, so it's really good for that. I also want to say it not only helps your children to stay healthy, it helps you stay healthy as well. So it's very recommended. But let me ask you, what do you think about C-sections?
Oh, I all three of mine were C sections.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, you have to remember. Well, maybe I didn't touch on that. When I had my eldest, I was 35. My second, I was 36, and then my third, I was 43. My first son, I tried to do it naturally. However, after hours and hours and hours of labor, I wasn't dilating. I didn't dilate past 4 centimeters.
Mm,
So finally, they were like, "Okay, we're gonna have to take him out, Mrs. Fields." And I said, "Okay, fine, whatever." And then the second one, we wanted to do a VBAC, um, and we tried it, but my OB didn't want to take any chances. So we did
What's
the
a VBAC? What's a VBAC? I don't know what that is.
VBAC is pretty much I forget the acronym at this time, but it's kind of like usually if you have one C-section, they'll push for you to just continue to have C-sections if you have more children. But if you really want to try a natural birth, they call it a VBAC, and it sounds just like that VBAC. But I don't remember the words to the acronym at this moment.
Mm.
And
Let
then
me.
by my third child, because I was 43, they didn't even discuss it. They was like, no. this is the day she getting cut out. Have a nice day. And that was on 9/11 of
Really?
2000. Huh?
What 9/11 happened or?
Yeah, it was on 9. Well, no, not when 9/11 happened, but that's when she was born because it even said, he said, well, are you sure you're okay with that delivery date? I know it might be sensitive to some people. And I'm like, no, okay, people lost their lives on 9/11. I'm bringing one in on 9/11. It's okay. Um, but I had C-section. Now I hear that it's a lot easier, a process to snap back when you have a vaginal birth. I
Mm-hmm.
can't speak to that because I've never had a vaginal birth. All of mine were C-sections. I know it sucked though. Like it hurt like hell. The
Yeah.
recovery.
So, I were you induced or were you late term?
No, the first, like I said, the okay. So the first one I tried naturally, it just didn't work. I didn't dilate. The second one they tried to induce me, and then the third one they said we're not even messing with you, Mrs. Fields. We just gonna cut her out on this date. And I was like, okay, whatever. And even when they induced me, it didn't work. So then it was just like, I'm sorry, because I wanted to experience it. I did. I wanted to experience a natural birth,
Mm,
but I just couldn't.
mm. Um, yeah, I had all three of mine's natural, so I could say that um, it's painful, but I mean, I don't know what it's like to have a C-section, so I can't speak on that either.
Exactly. But like I said, from what I hear from people who have had both,
Mm,
majority of the women do say that they snap back easier when they have a vaginal birth versus a C-section.
yeah, because you
And
got
to
you get,
answer and to respond to whoever responded, yes, I have not gained any weight because everything that I put in my body, my kids suck right out, right back out. So yes, it does help you with your weight. It's also been shown to help with breast cancer, to prevent breast cancer. I don't know how, but that's what I read.
mm,
So there are a lot of benefits, not just for the child, but for the mother as well, as far as breastfeeding.
hmm. um. So, okay, we got the. I'm sorry. So, what was your hardest time or the hardest age for raising your kids? Like, what's the hardest age for you?
Whew. Um, well, I had two under two. I think that was the hardest time for me because
Mm,
I was a first time mother and I didn't know nothing. I didn't know nothing. I just knew that I gave birth to these little creatures and I had to take care of them. And there were times where I just wanted to crawl up under a rock and be left alone because I didn't have no clue on what I was doing. I just knew I was a mom. So I would have to say the hardest time, if I had to put an age on it, I would say between no, 3 and 5 would be
mm,
the hardest time. Now, here I am with a 3-year-old, and it seems like a breeze, but because
mm,
I went through two of them already. So it's like,
mm,
okay, I know what you're up to, or I know what you're doing,
mm,
or I know what you need, or I know what you want because
mm,
I've done this before.
mm,
But in the beginning, yeah, I would have to say between 3 and 5 because that's when they're actually starting to learn things.
mm,
You know, like today, Monica told me today. She told me stop talking, and I was like, "Who are you talking to?" I was
mm,
like, "Okay, I'll stop talking. Don't worry." And then she asked me a question. I said, "No, you told mommy stop talking, so I'm not gonna talk no more." And I let her
mm.
go about her business.
Oh
So
no,
you
she not.
learn, yeah. No, you learn. So you learn. Basically, what I'm saying is you learn through the process of your previous ones. They always say the last one always has it the easiest because mom done already learned from the other one.
Mm, mm. I know you can't wait till she go to school, huh?
Oh Lord. She's magnificent.
Are you gonna put her in a public school?
No, I'm putting her in public school
Mm,
now. We'll see how it works. Like I could homeschool, or I could pay for a private school. I
mm,
think with my husband being a teacher
mm,
and also having attended public schools to a degree, even though I don't like the public school system as
mm,
much,
mm.
I think that it's not a bad thing. It's not
Okay.
a bad thing. It's not the worst thing if you're involved as a parent.
You must
I'm
be
very
involved.
involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you just send your kids to school because that's your babysitter and you're not involved in your children's performance or behavior or things like that, then yes, it could be a bad thing. But I believe that if you are involved in your children and what they're doing,
Mm,
and you're setting boundaries and structure and discipline in the home, I don't think it's a bad thing.
right. Yeah, I feel that you got to be definitely involved. Um, do you see a difference of? I mean, do you make a difference with your boys or your girl?
I don't think I do. I don't think I do. I mean, yeah. Are there no? Actually, no, I don't because um, I'll make the example. If William and Ethan, those are my two sons' name. If William and Ethan are treating one another a certain way, I'll tell them both that's not an appropriate way to behave.
Mm,
And then let's say my daughter behaves a way, I'll tell her that's not an appropriate way to behave. I
mm,
really don't think that I have a bias towards either, oh, excuse me, any of them due to gender. No, you're a child, or you're having a tantrum, or you're going through this,
mm,
and it is what it is, and it's just life, and you just gotta deal with it. I really don't think. But now I will say she does kind of run this house because she got everybody wrapped around her finger.
mm,
But she the baby girl. Like we got my husband, myself, and then 11 and a 10-year-old, and now a 3-year-old.
mm,
That's a huge difference. So everybody's kind of like the protector of her. Even her brothers are the protectors.
mm,
So I guess in a sense, she kind of gets away with a little more than the boys would,
mm.
but I wouldn't definitively say that.
Right. Um, trying to think here. So, how often, like, do they do any type of sports or extracurricular activities and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, the boys they play football. They opted out of this year.
Mm,
Um, my eldest opted out because he just went from fifth to sixth grade. So he went from elementary school to middle school,
mm,
and his teacher recommended all honors classes.
mm,
And so we talked about that and how it may be a little bit rough for him.
mm,
Not rough for him, but it may be a little extra work. And maybe you want to take a year off just so you can get the swing of it. And he actually agreed. He said, "You know what, Ma, you're right. My education is more important than football." So
mm,
he opted out of that. My second born son, he played football as well, but he didn't get the position he wanted, and he
hello. Oh, you went out. Hello.
it was more or less because in giving him an opportunity.
Mm. I don't know what happened. Hello. Hello.
They do. Besides that, mostly they just do things with their dad. They go hunting, they go fishing, they play football with dad, basketball with dad. They have shown an interest in basketball, which is coming up. So I actually need to sign them up for it. So that's their new interest right now.
Um. What do you plan on doing when all of them are in school?
I'm gonna open my cleaning business.
Oh yeah, you did say that. You did
Yeah,
say
yeah, yeah,
because you know
yeah,
how they have that empty nest syndrome thing.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm. So I was thinking
yeah.
like, I think I'm suffering from that right now.
Yeah, either well, I'm gonna do my cleaning business because it is a very good business, especially in the area that I live in. I
Mm,
have a lot of older people. It's a more upscale area, and
mm,
with a lot of elders as well who
mm,
may need that deep clean or whatever. And then
mm.
I can also schedule that around my children and my family, so I don't have to go clock in and out for an employer. And then I also do photography,
Okay.
so
Uh,
I'll be picking that back up as well.
Tell me about your marriage. Tell me about your husband. How did y'all meet and how did y'all get together and all those things?
So we actually met at a nightclub.
Mm,
Um, I remember I did not want to be at that nightclub on that particular night, but my friends bugged the hell out of me. So I was like, fine, 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 I'll go. And he, afterwards, in hindsight, also said that he had not wanted to be there that night, but it was his college friend birthday.
mm,
So I was on the dance floor and just doing my little 1-2 step, like R. Kelly, just 1-2 step.
mm,
And his friend, whose birthday it was, actually came and danced with me.
mm.
And I danced with him because I'm not rude. This is his birthday. He's like, it's my birthday. And I'm like, okay, cool. Here you go. I'll dance with you. And so then it turned into one of those biggie small things like, oh, you here with your friends? I'm here with my friends. Let's introduce our friends and we can all be friends. And
Right.
and he pointed over to his friends, and I
Mhm.
saw my husband. And I
Oh,
said, that's your friend. And he was like, yeah. I said, well, introduce me to that one. He said, oh, man,
oh,
you,
he
so
wanted
you did.
you.
Yeah, he was like, so you dissing me? And I was like, no, I'm not dissing you, but you're not really my type. I think I like him.
Uh,
And he didn't like, he didn't act up or anything. Like, he said, all right, hold on. Matter of fact, he said, you want to talk to grandpa. I said, y'all call him grandpa? I said, why y'all call him grandpa? They said, because he don't want to do nothing. I was like, yep, that's the one I want to talk to.
I know that's right.
I said, introduce me to him. And he was over there in his khakis and his button up shirt with his clean cut.
Uh,
And we've been together since then. And that was in May. Matter of fact, I can tell you the date, May 2nd of 2009.
okay. That's what's
Mm-hmm.
up, man. It's the perfect day. Me and my husband got married on May in May.
Okay.
We got
Yep, May
married.
2nd.
We got married May 1st. Yeah, that's good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so how did he propose to you and all that stuff?
He didn't really propose to me. I think it was more of a conversation that we had
Mm,
about getting married. Like we already kind of knew. And I want to say that was like 8 months in. We kind of already knew that that's where we were going.
mm,
And I told him, I said, do not buy me an engagement ring. And
mm,
he was like, why not? I said, because it's a waste of money. I said, do not buy me an engagement ring. I said,
mm,
take your time and find the perfect ring that you know I would like. And I remember he came back
mm,
and he had the ring in the box and he was about to get on his knee. I'm real goofy. I have to put that disclaimer out there. And he
mm,
was about to like do the whole knee thing. I said,
mm.
boy, get up and give me my damn ring. Doing all this mess. You already know I'm gonna say yes. You doing all this, and he put the ring on me, and that's it.
That was all she wrote.
That was all she wrote. You ain't got to get on one knee. No, just give me my damn ring, boy.
So you just super laid back.
Yes, I am. We're
Uh,
easy.
so how long after the marriage did you start having babies?
Oh my God! Like we got married in. Hold on, I met in 2009, 2011, 2012. So we married in 2011, and our first child was born in 2012.
Okay. Okay.
But we have to remember that at that point I was 32.
Mm,
So I was like, hey, if you want to have babies, we might need to work on that.
mm-hmm.
We don't want to wait too late.
Right, right,
And he
right.
was like, you're right.
Well, y'all was married, so it don't really matter after that anyway.
Yeah, no, it don't matter after that. I was just like, hey, if you want to do this, we need to do this. He was
Mm.
like, yeah, you're right. And I was like, okay, come on, let's go. So I had one in 2012, 2013, and then one in 2020.
Yeah, so I just recently got married, so it's a little tough situation on having kids because I'm 43. And I don't know if I will be able to do that, but I'm praying for it.
Look, it can happen. It
Yeah.
can happen. I remember when I found out, I was still working. I was, as a matter of fact, when I found out, I was a store manager at Dollar Tree. You know, they sell the pregnancy test there.
Mm,
And I hadn't had my cycle, but I'm thinking because this you have to remember, well not remember, it was around December, the end of December that I actually conceived. Now, if you think about it, the end of December for retail is really stressful because you got Christmas and then you got to pack all that stuff away once that's done and everything's going on. So I thought I was just missing my cycle because I was stressed out or I was tired.
mm,
Because obviously at that point I'm 42. I had her at 43. And
mm.
so then one day I was just like, no, something ain't right. I don't even feel right. So as soon as I walked in the building, this was before it became $1.25 tree. I put $1 on the counter before the store even opened, and I
Mm.
grabbed a pregnancy test, and I went to the bathroom, and sure enough, them two lines came up, and I cried for about a good 3 days,
Why you cry?
cause I didn't want no more kids. I had my two boys. They were potty trained. They were self sufficient. This was not a part of the plan.
Mm.
I cried for about 3 days, and then
Oh,
I got over it, and now she's here. So again, I just say that like it can happen. I did not expect it to happen, but it definitely can freaking happen. And I had, even though a lot of people like to say, oh, women over 35, they can't have children, or, the risks are high. I do understand that to a degree, but I had a child at 35, 36, and 43, and I had great pregnancies.
mm,
And knock on wood, none of my children have any ailments or any illnesses.
mm. I thought it was just a risk for the mother, not the children. That's a risk for the children if the baby comes late.
Yeah, a lot of times they try to say that a lot of times, which is something I had to research myself as well, where they say that's when you have things like Down syndrome, autism, things like that, because of the age of it, pretty much saying like the eggs are old. So because the eggs are old, that it's your child could be susceptible um, to disabilities.
Oh wow.
And in a sense, it is true, but it's not a guarantee. And a lot of women get scared with that when they get up there in age, like, oh my God, I can't have a kid because what if they come out with Down syndrome or autism or or a disability?
Mm,
If that happens, it
mm,
is something that was already going to happen, whether you were 20 or whether you were 40. I
mm,
have a 20-year-old friend who
mm.
has two children with Down syndrome, but her mother also has a son with Down syndrome.
Oh,
So
so
it's
it could
not
be
necessarily because of, your body, it's because of your family history.
mm, mm, okay.
And a lot of OBs, because I remember when I walked into my OB, Dr. Hyde, I loved him. He retired. He birthed all three of my children. And when I walked in there when I was 42, he looked at me because he worked at this clinic that was like for everything. It's called Virginia Physicians for Women. So they do like breast screening and they do everything.
Mm.
And he looked at me and said, Mrs. Fields, he said, I know you better be here for a breast exam. I said, no, Dr. Hyde, I'm pregnant. He said, now you know you're too old for this shit. I said, stop playing with me. I'm pregnant. He said, Lord have mercy. He said, you gonna get your tube tied after this? I said, hell yeah.
Oh, so you got your tooth tied?
I did. I
Okay.
did. Matter of fact, on the table, I told him, I said, if you don't do it right and I get pregnant again, I'm coming for you for child support. So you better
I
do it right.
I heard that. I told my husband, I said, if we do have a kid, we're gonna have to sign a disclosure that if you should leave, you take this little motherfucker with you.
I know that's right. Sure, we already got that one in order. I tell my husband all the time, if you leave me, you taking all these kids with you. You are
That,
not leaving them with me.
that's why I be tripping off of these men talking about uh women be choosing to be single mothers. I'm like, if she do, she gotta be crazy.
Out her whole mind. Out her rabbit ass mind. Because you taking these kids. I don't understand that either. All these women, they want to sit here and struggle and do it by themselves. Nah, give them to their daddy. Give
Right,
them to their daddy. Go on a cruise.
right, right.
Yeah, no, no, no. Matter of fact, I'll pay you for how much is child support? Roughly, the average is like $500. I'll give you $500 a month. Take them, take
Right.
them.
Yeah, but these red pill, blue pill people be thinking that women really want to sit up here and bear the struggle of raising a child on their own.
Hmm.
That's a struggle.
I'm sure it is. I
Um,
mean,
Co-parenting, I would have been happy if I had that.
yeah.
Unfortunately, like I didn't get that for a while.
Um,
Co-parenting, I had to do it by myself. So, what how can I what else can we touch on? Because you said your oldest is 11.
yeah.
So, are you dealing with him going through adolescence?
Well, he actually just had his sixth grade dance today,
Mm,
and the girl asked him out. I was very chuckled by his story. He said he was sitting there, and one of the friends, she didn't even ask him. That one of the friends came over and asked him, and she was over there chuckling and giggling. And adolescence, yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there, especially with him being in middle school, and but I was prepared for it. Um, but they also have their father, you know.
mhm,
So I think that and my husband is a goofball. When I tell you he's a goofball, he messes with them so bad that they just not sensitive to anything as far as real life is concerned.
mhm,
Um, I remember one time Monica wanted to go for a walk, so we put her in her stroller, and my mid kid, the 10-year old, he told me about his boner. I'm keeping it PG.
mhm.
And I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. And then I tried to change the subject. He was like, no, but mom, when I touched it, it felt kind of good. And I was like, okay, we need to go
Uh-oh.
back home.
That's the frolic stage we was talking about earlier.
I said, we need to go back home. And when we got home, I said, Billy, you need to talk to your son. And he was like, what's going on? And I was like, no, you need to talk to him. He's talking about his bonus, and you need to talk to him, right?
Mhm,
Now, of course, as a mother, I do the nurturing part of that. Like for example, today, I'll use today as an example. When my husband went to go pick my son up from the dance, my son was actually late to the dance because they wouldn't let him in because they said
mhm,
he wasn't on the list, even though we had paid.
mhm,
So when my husband was coming back from work to go and pick him up, he stopped at Walmart and got this little small bouquet of flowers as an apology for
mhm.
being late. That was my idea. Well, my husband wouldn't have thought of that.
Oh,
That was
that's
my
sweet.
idea. You
So
know, we're trying to raise them to be gentlemen.
exactly. Let me just put you on mute 'cause I want to ask you this question. I don't know if you ever heard of this Priscilla Clark person, but she said that men are predators, right? So she has this campaign going out about men. And so what do you have to say to that? Because what influence do women have on young men and children? Did you hear
You
me?
said she said that men are pretty much naturally predators.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't subscribe to any of that.
Mm.
Because I never generalize anything when it comes to either gender. Um, yes, obviously you have men out there who are predators, but I will never ever, because I have a husband and two sons, I would never want my husband nor sons generalized in that aspect.
Mm.
Um, I think whoever that person is needs to go to therapy, and she needs to figure out how to heal from who hurt her,
Mm.
because it's not all men. And this is something that I get on a daily basis, because honestly I stick up for men a lot. I get called all types of names. I'm the pick me, and
Oh yeah, I was trying to pick me on one of my shows too.
yeah, I'm the pick me, or one called me a male worshiper. No, it's not that I'm a male worshiper, but there are good men out here, and you're not going to diminish the good men out here because you dealt with some bad men.
Mm.
Say Tyrone that live at 27 Oak Street ain't shit. Don't
Right.
don't put all of them in the same category. We're not doing that, boo.
Right, right. Because I was called a pick me when I was doing a show, and I guess I'm not over it. I guess I'm still in my feelings about it because I'm literally like I'm pro people, pro life, pro love, pro all those things. So when I'm trying to explain, that there are good and bad people in the world. It's not even based off of race or gender. You just have some good people and some evil people. And I even gave like examples of women who had children who killed their children. You know what I'm saying? Too like it's not just a male or female thing. It's just people that are evil. The girl called me a pick me.
Yeah, that's because you didn't fall into her narrative. You didn't say, "Oh, you right. All men are this, or all men are that." And that's like I said. Like, I agree with you. Like, there's bad people in the world and there's good people in the world, and that's how you should categorize people, not by gender, not by race. This person is messed up. That person is messed up. This is a magnificent person. This is an excellent person. And
Are you breaking up, sis? I think you're going in and out. Mrs. Fields?
one thing. And that do honestly take. Matter of fact, one girl said, "Oh well, you only say that because you're married and you have sons and they can do no wrong." I said, "I'm not saying that they can't do no wrong. I'm
Mm.
saying that they're not what you're describing them as, and you're lumping them into your category because you've been hurt by somebody and you need to seek some therapy." I
Mm-hmm.
don't give a damn. I say what I say.
Right, right, right.
You
It's
can
just a
block me, call me whatever you want. I'm gonna say what I say.
yeah, it's just
I'm too grown not to say what I'm gonna say.
right because it's just too much generalization and lumping everybody in one category, like lumping single mothers in one category, like all single mothers raised as criminals, or saying that all men are predators. Because I've seen some single mothers that raised some exceptionally good children, and I've seen some single mothers that just didn't give a damn.
That's right.
So it's just like we gotta be careful with these so-called talking points these days.
And then you also have to think that you don't know somebody's situation. I'll give you an example. I have a very good friend. I've known her for shit, like 3 decades. She's a single mother. She got 4 boys by the same man. In
Mm,
the beginning, he was an active father. They weren't married, but they were definitely committed to one another.
mm,
And one day he was out in the streets. I don't know what he was doing, so I'm not going to speak on that. But he got gunned down. Now he survived, but I think that that was a very traumatic experience for him. And since then, he hasn't been really in their lives. So she's been raising these 4 kids on her own, and they're freaking magnificent boys. 4 of them, 4 boys.
mm,
You know, um, And then, but you have the flip side where you do have single mothers that, they drop them off at grandma's house all the time, and they're going out to party. So, you have to watch who you're addressing because you don't know what that person has gone through.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I ain't gonna lie to you. If you a single mother and you out partying all the time and you dropping your kids off everywhere, here, and there, and you ain't doing nothing, you ain't spending time with them, I'm gonna call you a deadbeat mother. That's what I'm gonna call you. No different than that, but no different than I would a man. If it was the same as a man, I would say the same thing. If you don't do nothing for your kids, all you do is party, hang out, and drop your kids off somewhere else for somebody else to watch or raise them.
Right.
So yeah, no, you're not doing nothing. But those out there that's doing something and really trying and working hard to raise these kids, they get my full respect. Now I don't want to do it. I'm thankful for my husband. I'm thankful for him. Because I wouldn't want to do it. Shoot, when he at work, I can't wait till he get off of work. I'm like, damn, you ain't home yet? Oh. And then when he gets home, all the kids gravitate to him. And that's why I'm able to be on this call, because he's home.
Oh, okay.
And I'm able to be on this call. And I'm like, oh, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, tell him I said thank you.
Go
to the show. And I appreciate you coming out. And I do want to do another show.
Okay.
With you where you're more prepared or whatnot, and we'll schedule that. And get the stuff because we're getting this feedback. Hold on. And we'll reschedule. I mean, not reschedule, but we'll schedule a part 2 of this. I need to get ready to go out. But I can go out because I got grown kids now. But anyways, and I want to thank you so much for joining the show. Any final thoughts?
Look, it was a great conversation. It was a more or less, we're just feeling one another out and seeing our topics and what we could speak about. And yes, I'd be delighted to be on a show anytime that you requested me. Just let me know when ahead of time. And again, next time I'll have the computer instead of the phone.
So I will be doing like a open show on Monday, and it's called Shooting the Shit, and we talk about relationship stuff. So you can always join that, and then we could just do another show with just me and you, where we just bring out, some teachings if you like.
Okay, shoot me the link anytime.
Okay, guys, thank you guys for joining. I appreciate everybody give it up for Mrs. Fields for stopping by and talk to us about child rearing and child raising. We didn't even get into the discipline part. It was so many things, but it's Friday the 13th, and I know everybody getting off of work and getting ready to turn up. So I want to thank you guys for showing up and showing out. And this is Meika Wash, and I am out. Show who you are. Good Rick. Is your kid in bid the forbidden? As it was written, you overbidding. With the heathens, karma is a bitch, so how you living? Pray for my enemies, unforgiving. Cast the pearls on hog moms and chitlin'. If it's too hot, get your ass out the kitchen. Finger licking good looking. Stewing in the stew, I'm cooking. You psyched out, paranoid and shookin'. Shook the table, babes, I'm booking. Get prepared for this ass whooping. Listen to the words being spoken. You were talking, I'm awake and woken. While I'm spitting this, got your spit, got choking. Era up, a glimpse in my world, eyes shut open. Parallel in my mind, I'm chosen. Reverse the time, heart frozen. Antarctica, cold as ice. Casting lots, rolling dice. Mean as nails, I'm nothing nice. They persecuted me like they rejected Christ.